me. There is so much pain all around, I feel guilty. My ego starts to get in the way, and I feel that I need to hide my true feelings of love and happiness. How should I react in these emotional circumstances?
Hi, Catherine. First, let's stop and discuss the first part of your statement. And after that, I want to visit the second part, then the third part. So this one question of yours becomes a launching platform for my teaching today, and I thank everybody for letting me do this. I teach the elements of humanism and the realization of a larger concept of a loving God. I teach it more than most of us were ever really taught. It's so often that we are a product of our entire environment instead of necessarily what you're hearing here tonight. So I want to begin like this. Like you, Monica and I have lost way too many friends and loved ones in these past couple of years. I mean, it doesn't even seem like a correct average to me. And some of them, if not most, were way too young. I asked Kryon, what's really going on? What's really going on? Some of those we have lost were just beginning to get traction on helping others and teaching great things. It just didn't seem appropriate to me. It didn't make sense. So although this is not part of your question, it may help others who are seeing this as well to know what Kryon has said about the seeming increase in what I will call inappropriate death. One of the first in the series of losses for me was a beloved co-worker, a very good friend. He was way too young and was a world-class healer and a kind of mentor for me on metaphysical things. I was angry that he was taken suddenly in his prime. Have you ever been angry at God? It was just shocking to me, the whole thing was. And Kryon let me grieve. And then some time passed before I ever got an answer from Kryon. Here it was, for the answer of why. This is from Kryon. In this shift, some of the more prominent old souls are going to leave us so that they can immediately come back, grow up, and continue their work in a fresher energy. The untimely death is the mechanism that allows them to be young again at a time when this planet will absolutely need them. It's part of a grander plan, and one that we all agreed upon. Now that all agreed upon, that was hard. The untimely death is the mechanism. I had a hard time with that too. You see, for me, I was grateful for the answer, but I was personally disappointed, and it had to be my friend. So here we are. That's my bias. That's my grief. That was my anger. But it was an answer. Then it happened again. Then it happened again. And that was just the first three. So Catherine, you're not alone in seeing what I will call a definite divine plan or pattern that is very real. You're not imagining it at all. Many who are not light workers are also passing to get them back to a place where they can be of more help to the planet as well, in a group that's ready to go at the next level, when they hit the ground running, you might say, but would not have done this at this time right now. It's all part of a bigger plan, I suppose. The next part of your description is all part of my strong past. I don't know if you knew that or not. The Grim Reaper. Like you, I was absolutely programmed that all of us were going to be judged. And most of us were going right to hell. After all, none of us were good enough. But wait, there was a way out of that horror with certain beliefs that required commitment to doctrines, ways of life, masters of the past, all to make this go away. It was only later that I realized that these things were the building blocks of most of human mythology. And just like countless cultures, we were just following the path that humans had taken for centuries. If you want to see this in history for yourself, consider the books The Power of Myth by one of my favorite people, Joseph Campbell. Like you, I discovered and was shown a much bigger truth. In this bigger truth, I had all the love components that I really looked for in my church, but without the mythology of a judging, dysfunctional God. It was the belief that it didn't require structure or membership, but had all the wonderful, loving attributes of family that all of us love so much. You and I, and most who are watching this program, are still the minority, since mainstream religion is still very prominent in our culture. Now, add the linearity we are taught about spiritual beliefs. It's this or that with nothing in between. You can't be part of one religion and then add something from another or something you sensed. You're either one or the other and you commit to the doctrine. It's all or nothing. This linearity is seen clearly in our culture in the United States. Are you aware that there are now over 300 types of Protestant churches in the United States? And we're programmed to only be part of one church. Perhaps not even one of those, period. Stay in your box. My greater truth meets with puzzlement whenever I am asked about it. Quote, Lee, you mean you are not a member of any church and you're on your own in these beliefs? How is this possible? I've had that many times. It's like I somehow violated a sacred rule that does not allow for a human to love God on their own. That's exactly the way it feels. Certainly, you have to be in one of those boxes to behave. There's got to be rules, there's got to be structure. It really shows how comfortably programmed most people are in this way. So finally, we get to the third part of your question. When you are at a funeral and you are inwardly rejoicing at a far greater and grander truth about someone's personal life and they've just passed, how do you participate in the sorrow and the grief that many have there without feeling guilty? Okay, that answer is something we teach, and you might recognize it. It's called compassionate action. Instead of becoming an outcast on how you are reacting, find a way to comfort those who are suffering. You never have to display your celebration of joy, but rather go inward and covert and reframe that and look for, who can I help today? To show my greater understanding of what's happening. And that what you do that is you're not sharing a difference about how you feel about the death. You're becoming compassionate. You look around, how can I find somebody and be with them to help alleviate their sorrow? You see, when you can do this, there is no guilt for you. And all people see is the love you are displaying in their presence. This works. Nice, huh? You can have all the joy you want to in comforting those around you. That came right from Kryon. We're not supposed to evangelize what we have here. We are to share it in ways that show kindness, love, and great compassion. This is our great gift. Along the way, others may see it and ask about it, so get ready with a good, compassionate, and loving answer that doesn't offend anybody, but instead gives them hope.
A wonderful message for this time, and I'd like to take another question, and this one is still on this subject of transitioning, but it comes from Catherine in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. It's slightly different to what we just had, but I think it's still relevant. Kryon has mentioned our deceased family members have never left us and will always be a part of us as soul family. Kryon, I'm wondering if our beloved pets who crossed the Rainbow Bridge are part of that soul family. During the Circle of 12 sessions, I always see my deceased cats as my soul family members. Okay, here's the fun part of why I chose this question, because just last month on December 18, this was the exact subject of Kryons channeling, and it was so heartwarming. So I really encourage those of you who've also wondered about this question to go to the replay for the year 2024 and find the episode for December 18. And about 5 minutes into the replay, Kryon begins the channel by asking if your pets reincarnate. So here's an example of having a channel from Kryon that fully and completely answers Katherine's question. Now, even though Kryon gave a complete answer, I'd like to ask Lee to give us a summary since it has such great information.
I really like to talk about this subject, and for some of you who don't know, this program goes to others in other languages, and they don't get all the programs, so this might be something they did not receive. So I'm going to be happy to review the subject. And again, the linearity of our programming often has the questions sound like this. Do animals reincarnate? If so, which types? Those questions alone show how limited our understanding is on how things work, or even about the systems that are in place that help them work. Note that Katherine didn't ask either one of those questions. Instead, she asked about our beloved pets and our soul family. So Katherine already has the category more defined for the real question, which I'm going to give you in a minute. And it's not about animals, not really. It's about love. We have a love relationship with our pets, a very energetic, real consciousness that has a lot of power. And it doesn't matter if they're a mouse or an elephant, that's there. Love has created a bond that is like a magic energy for their entire short lives with us. And the answer for Katherine, who really is asking about love, is yes, there is reincarnation. But think, animals don't reincarnate. The relationship with them does. Kryon's loving remark is this: they all wish to continue the love relationship with you and are available to do so if you wish to find them. I love that. I've absolutely had this proven to me more than once. Many others I know have too. When you have a relationship of love, the consciousness of the pet is known to you. The consciousness is familiar to you. When you find this consciousness again, whether it's in the same kind of an animal or not, you recognize it. You can see the same attributes. And whatever animal it is, you might have, again, the likes and the dislikes, even habits, good and bad, continue in that new animal. Again, Kryon's advice: when you lose a beloved pet, actively look for them to return in the next 90 days. This is the freshest time. Although they can return to you anytime, this is the best timing for this. Don't assume you know where they're going to be like, so the last time you found them, I'll go there. You can try that, but don't assume that's where they're going to be. Instead, look for and turn to your intuition to guide you to places where they can be found. Then look in the eyes of the animal. That's where you're going to see it. A message for you. I love you so much. I'm back. Let's keep the love going.
I love that we can keep the love going. And from the chat that I was watching in the replay of December 18, just before we finished, a lot of you have had those experiences where you have reunited with the love relationship you've shared. So thanks again for doing the summary and review of that, Lee. I think it's a topic I can never get tired of listening to. I'd like to take another question. This time it has to do with the end of life. Colleen from Colorado is saying, I'm training to be an end-of-life death dweller, or doula, I should say, and that is to assist and guide families and their loved ones with the transition process of their life. I've always known, but I'm really now seeing just how much our society is in fear and trauma around death. It's not treated as the sacred event it once was. People don't want to look at it, talk about it, and are even in denial about it. Even though it's inevitable for all of us, people are resistant to planning for their death or talking about it with their families. What does Kryon have to say about this? And how will the new paradigm consciousness affect our beliefs on death? Will this be changing soon? Is there a way to help people with their beliefs on death to more empowering ones instead of being afraid of it. In my experience of helping souls cross, it's a very high vibrational energy stream they move into, and it is a beautiful experience. But this is difficult to convey to those that are stuck in an old paradigm or dogmatic beliefs.
Colleen, yes, it is. It's very tough. I again wish to examine this question in parts and then comment on some of the parts, and I hope I touch some of the answers that you've asked for. For within the bulk of your question, you have really pegged an issue that is so true about our culture, my culture especially. Yes, my society, our culture is in full denial about death. Nobody's ever gotten us ready. That makes us completely dysfunctional if friends pass away. If you have a good friend and their spouse of many years would die, some have trouble calling them on the phone, even if they're good friends. It just feels strange. What can I say? What does anybody say? In addition, many feel awkward just about the whole issue. We just haven't had any training. Nobody's helped us with this. The result is often that only a few people get personally involved, unless, of course, it's a relative. The reason for all this is due to a whole lot of misunderstanding and, again, programming with the misinformation of what this transition actually is. What does Kryons say about it? Wow. Monica and I know this. And we immediately go to what Kryon has given us in so many distinct and personal ways about life and death and the amazing system around it. For us to do that with as much pure truth as possible, Monica and I will default to what we were both given from Kryon with the exact terminology from the Lemurian Teaching Wheel course that we created 2 years ago. Now, one of the attributes that the young Lemurians were taught from that course by the Star Mothers is named Passing with Joy. This was the teaching about how to treat birth and death within human society, and it is absolutely beautiful. When we read that, we said, why? Why did this not get to us? Why? We were taught in that course that there was something called the eternal pool. This actual pool of warm seawater was used to participate in and celebrate both birth and death, the eternal pool. In addition, there was a song that was sung in both of those energies, and it was the same identical song. Mothers giving birth were taken to this pool, where the shamanic women of the village would all sing this song as the children had an underwater birth. As the infant emerged into life, this was the first sound they ever heard. When death was near, individuals were taken to this same pool. Friends and family gathered to sing them to the other side with that same song. Somehow their last breath was coordinated with this song, and there was a joyful passing, no fear, no sorrow, no awkwardness. Stories were told, and there was much laughter and joy. So as a continuation of this answer, Monica and I want to examine this concept that was given as core spiritual truth so many years ago. I often feel very sorrowful that this wonderful truth was ruined by a modern spiritual family of ideas and systems about a judging God that tells us that we're only here one time and then gone forever, and often to a place of horror because we messed up.
Before we go into some teaching, let me tell you what else Kryon alluded to in the teachings of Lemuria that is fascinating and displays the idea of entrainment. This is a term that describes how biological systems and sometimes non-biological elements seem to synchronize when in groups. So the effect is well known. It's seen often in nature and even sometimes in situations that are defined as chance. where somehow the individual parts will synchronize with one another. One of the classic examples for humans is the synchronized menses of women over time together in a dormitory or college campus. By the way, their boyfriends should definitely stay away during this time. Okay, that was a joke, but not really. There's also certain types of fireflies that all flash together. It's an example of the same concept of synchronization and entrainment. In the oceans, it's classic when species get together for feeding or mating and they synchronize their movements. An example is coral spawning, where the coral reefs, they release their eggs and sperm en masse once a year, and it is a spectacular event and essential for the health of the entire reef system. So one of the things that Kryon has told us about Lemuria now starts to make sense about this amazing eternal pool and the births and deaths that took place as described in the Lemurian teaching wheel.
Can you imagine a group of women who are all about the same term in pregnancy, but who all get together to actually give birth together? This is what Kryon described happened in the villages in Lemuria in the eternal pool. So birth was often a group event at the pool, with most of the women in the village attending and helping with the births in many ways. The eternal pool song was sung over and over and was accompanied by the cries of the newborns and much joy. The actual song was heroic in nature and was known by every single person in the village. A group birth? What kind of synchronicity is that? It's really odd to us, but now it starts to make some sense with entrainment. This was the way they lived and were taught, and the human body seemed to be very cooperative in this kind of beautiful entrainment. Of course, death was different. Each human takes his last breath at an individual way, and very individual with their own time spans, their own soul agendas. But each person sensed when it was time in the village. When it was time, they knew. And they would alert the others to what was happening. There was no fear. There was no anxiety with passing. And every elder actually looked forward in some way to going home and being sung to the other side of the veil. And the village would cooperate by being there to create that heroic song and provide a very rich passing with joy experience. We have many hours of lessons filled with beautiful teachings from Kryon about how the Lemurians were taught, and it's all within our online course called the Lemurian Teaching Wheel. So tonight we wish to give you one of those short stories and to share with you the beauty of the entire concept of birth, death, and the system of coming and going from home. All taught by the Star Mothers, those from the stars who were there to personally teach the young students about a grand system of love. I'm going to let Monica set the stage, and we'll get into the storytelling that will take us right into a Lemurian village.
So as we recall the lesson that we gave on the teaching wheel, I pull it back to Colleen's question and also her Akash, because Colleen, you are carrying core seed truth that you are acting upon in this time. You are correct. Death is a beautiful transition back home, and in terms of educating society around it, I believe our awakening is happening, and through messages from Kryon and through people from yourself, slowly these core truths will re-emerge. And so that's hopefully answering your question. It will happen. There's a re-emergence of these core spiritual truths. But what we'd like to do now is share some of the teachings that we've been given by Kryon, and I want to ask you to travel through time with me now. Let's go back to ancient Lemuria, thousands of years ago, where they sat at the feet of the Star Mothers. We meet our young adult Lemurian class in mid-lesson when they are first starting to work on the third and final adult concept of the child life spoke, which is taught on the Lemurian teaching wheel. But something was happening in the village. Not uncommon for their culture or for the women elders of the village. There was a stir happening and a meeting was called. The young adults had witnessed a stir before and they knew what it meant. The elder Shah women of the village had called a meeting. The meeting would be attended by only women, and only women who had been through the training of the shamanic teaching wheel. There are always some who will view this class and will ask, well, what did the men think of this, to be kept out of a planning meeting that involved the village? And again, we will tell you to put aside your cultural influence, the things from your own culture, and put yourself into the Lemurian culture. The men were delighted. They often called upon these wise elder women to help them with intuitive counselling, as well as what would the weather bring, or where might the fish be moving to. These women were also the doctors of the day, or the healers. They had the essences and the solutions for many illnesses and had saved many lives. So to continue the story, the men who hadn't gone fishing for the day gathered together with the rest of the village outside the decision tent to find out what was happening. And of course, our students received word that all classes were suspended for the morning. So this is the scene for our entire story. The entire village had gathered outside the tent and waited, but most of them knew what was happening.
Makahi. That was the name of an elderly man who had been getting weaker and weaker this past year. Known in the past as Master Fisher, Makahi was revered by most of the men as the one who could talk to fish. And he'd been the teacher and the mentor to many of the men over the time that he had been alive. And in the past months, even some of the sons of the fathers of those men had been his students, and he'd been with him to make him as comfortable as possible. But most of the village knew he was dying, and they didn't want to think of losing such a wonderful man. Soon the women came out of the tent, and the announcement was made. Makahi was entering his time of transition, and the village needed to move Makahi and prepare the eternal pool. Now, we have discussed the eternal pool before, but this time we'll take you there with the adults of the village. Everyone but the very small children got to be part of the eternal pool during a transition, and it was considered an honor to go. The young adults in this Lemurian teaching wheel class, they were old enough, and they'd been a number of times before in the past years. All who could come were assembled, all together in this eternal pool. It was very quiet, and Makahi was carried into the pool. He had lost consciousness, but he was still very much alive. The mix of who got into the water and who stayed to watch was determined by a protocol that was kind of complicated. It depended on the gender of the one passing, along with the age, the family, the clan that they belonged to. But everyone took their place. Again, silence. A star mother had taken her place. She was always there for this, standing in a place that was always reserved for her or her sisters. And the ceremony began. I'm not going to give you the details. It takes about 2 hours, and it was complete. The heroic song had been sung as Makahi took his last breath. And then, as designed, Makahi had been sung.
It was still early afternoon, and the young adults were summoned back to class. As they arrived, some were very active and feeling uplifted, and a few had tears. They settled themselves, and the Star Mother came and took her place and spoke. Students, the ceremony you just attended fits right into our lesson for today. You just helped someone die, yet many of you are filled with interesting energy. The Star Mother turned to one of the girls. Dia, she called the girl's name. Dia immediately stood up, as was the protocol. The Star Mother continued. You had some tears. Did this event sadden you? Dia acted surprised. Of course not, Star Mother. I got to sing some of the favourite songs that we can only get to sing at the Eternal Pool. My tears were of joy and enjoyment of the time we all had. Dia, you enjoyed watching someone die? Remarked the Star Mother. Well, all the young people were wondering why the Star Mother was talking like this. I mean, the Star Mother knew the protocol and island culture as well as anyone. After all, she may have even originated them. Why would she ask such a question? Well, the Star Mother smiled, as if to let the students know she was just testing them. Dia sat down and the Star Mother continued. Class, what was your reaction the first time you attended a transition in the Eternal Pool? She asked. You are used to what happens now, but how about the first time? Did anything surprise you? Well, one of the young women stood up to speak. The Star Mother nodded to her. Star Mother, I for one was very surprised at the laughter and singing. I know what you taught us when we were children, but I didn't expect to see it so vividly at the Eternal Pool. It was joyful and happy, and the song that was sung when Elder Makahi passed, it was filled with heroic words and melodies. It has become one of my favourite songs.
Here's a case where you listening here tonight might actually be ahead of the lesson that Monica and I are giving. This girl is referring to what the entire class had learned through the years on the teaching wheel spoke, called center return. This was one of the most magnificent perspectives that the Lemurians had and that were taught. It's a concept that these Lemurian students already know. But for you, here it is. It happens to be the sixth concept of the child life spoke, and it's called passing with joy. Passing with joy. Think for a moment about this. The eternal pool is also the birthing pool. When Makahi was born many years ago, the first thing his ears heard was the hero song that the girl in the class was speaking of right now. There were many names for that song, but that was hers, for each person had their own feelings about it. A beautiful song. At that moment in his birth, only the women were singing it, since only they were allowed in the eternal pool for birthing. But now, Makahi was hearing this same song as sung by his family and his friends as he exited his life. The Star Mothers had told the children and the adults many times, quote, there is no sting in death, only joy. As those in attendance were then singing Makahi to the other side. The students all smiled, and once again they realized how beautiful the Star Mothers were teaching about the cycle of life. Although far away, when it was their turn, they would understand, they would be ready, and they would not be fearful for such a joyful experience.
So we ask all of you hearing this now in this program, is this Lemurian culture, all those thousands of years ago, ahead of us or behind us? When Kryon first channeled this information in 2017, he did it so that we could see the core information that was directly given from our star seeds. The teaching was some of the most loving and pure ideas ever given to humans for humans. And in the process, you can also see that none of these ideas were accompanied by any doctrines or rules or dogmas, prophets or worship. None of these ideas were accompanied by warnings or fear of a judgmental God. Both life and death were seen as the same, and passing between them was filled with joy. To a Lemurian, this was the way of life. There was no separation between life and spirituality. Everything was considered part of the entire whole of all things they could see and not see. And so that concludes the passing with joy concept taught in Lemuria. And I'm so glad that we're able to share this concept with everyone. And I feel that these changes are taking place if we start looking at how even some funerals are reframed as a celebration of life. That in itself describes everything that the Star Mothers were teaching us, that moving between coming and going from home, we pass through those dimensions with joy. So anything else you want to add, Lee?
No, it's just that every time we revisit anything that is so touching that has happened, that Kryon has said, both birth and then passing, and those victory songs. By the way, that's what some of the students call them. Give you the hint. The heroic songs were then victory songs, and it's just so touching to me then to review it. And I hope everybody was okay with it when we tell it again.
Absolutely. So that concludes our fourth Wednesday forum for the evening. We're going to take a break, and then when we come back, we'll continue with Miracle Moments and the Circle of 12. Well, welcome back, everyone. We hope you enjoyed the discussion that we had on the topic passing with joy. And thank you to our beautiful members that submitted those questions that kind of stimulated this whole discussion. And it is a topic that most people would tend to avoid, but it is a beautiful energy that happens. I think it's just sad for the people left behind, but when we get that perspective, we're all going to have our turn, and we simply go back to the infinite place of being with the Creator and home and merging with the soul of everybody else, and then we come back and do it all again. So sometimes this subject, again, it's treated with sadness, many tears, but we hope that what we shared with you this evening makes you really realize the transition itself is joyful and it's filled with spectacular energy. It's difficult to see, but that's why we are here studying mastery.
We continue to remind you that there's a place, truly, honestly, in 3D, for you to share your request for prayer and energy in your portal. This very placing of your request in that list has a wonderful energy of intent that goes with it. Leave a prayer request and look for some others in your Kryon family, perhaps who are doing the same. And stop, celebrate their lives as you read it. I wish to start with two names we picked at random to begin this Miracle Moment season. And we often take maybe two names are just randomly selected, no reasons, just random, and we give energy to them on this particular program. So let me give you the name, and let's do that. The first one is Sandra. I wish you to visualize and send compassion and solutions to Sandra. I say this each time, it's not needed for you to know the details. You just don't need to know them. That's the beauty of this. We surround Sandra with love, energy, compassion, and we hug her. I want you to visualize the situation, whatever she's asked for, to be solved, and see the joy that will accompany this for Sandra. Everybody can do that together. That's why we're here. I wish you to consider the same thing for Jamie. I want you to see the situation solved, whatever it is that is needed for Jamie. See the joy, again, that will accompany the solution. And that's what we do. We'll go right to where you see Jamie with everything solved and the joy that's there. Can we do that? Thank you for joining us in this energy of love for these two. I would love, Monica, now to share a miracle moment from someone in our group.
So this miracle moment comes from Dean. And Dean says that the first episode of the green mist, it led to cascading healing, which quickly culminated into even more healings at an even faster and faster rate. All I had to do was literally just sit there and shine my light while the angels worked all around me. Things which had been blocking me were suddenly lifted and were there no more. It was so resoundingly positive that I visited the green mist over and over, again and again, to the same effect. And now I just clear myself and others wherever I go. I'm no longer the same person I was just a month ago, but more healthy, happy, and complete. This team of angels are the most powerful angels that I've ever experienced. Our teams and our gifts will continue to get stronger the more we work with them. Shine and send forth love to both them and ourselves. We could not be more blessed at this time. Stay beautiful out there and shine your light. Don't you just love Dean's miracle moment? And I love his phrase to all of us is to stay beautiful out there. Keep on shining your light. It's such a lovely testimony of you can feel how much he's been transformed. And that's our deepest desire and intent for every human on the planet, one light worker at a time. Right now, there's many who are requesting help, and they're looking to us to send them love and compassion and light. So let's do that now, collectively, together. I invite you to close your eyes and focus on the area of your heart. And the reason we say this is because as each of us focuses on the heart area, there begins to be a synchronization, an entrainment, and a field of coherence that's being generated. So just spend some time now feeling and connecting to each other. And if you're listening to this in the replay, it's actually all happening in the now moment, so that you are joining in this field of coherence that those of us in the live stream are creating now. And so as this field of coherence that we create, it begins to amplify, because we are so ready right now to send the energy of love, send the energy of compassion, send the energy of peace and solutions to all those who are requesting our help on the prayer list. No matter when that request is made, there is an energy linked to when that name is placed on the list, knowing that there are groups of old souls coming together to send healing energy, love energy, compassion energy, kindness energy. And let us now extend that to include all the brothers and sisters on the planet. for their souls are entangled with our souls. And the more we are using our collective group to touch that very essence of the soul, it's already impacting and touching the souls of everybody else on the planet. And so let us push this energy of benevolence out into the field, reaching all of humanity, and know that we are in extraordinary times of shift and change. And that the changes we expect are filled with benevolence, positive expectations, and amazing outcomes. And with that, I thank you for joining in the transmission of love and compassion. And let us now receive the message and connection from Kryon to take us into the circle of 12.
Greetings, dear ones. I'm Kryon. Come a little closer.